Three powers, one board. The military, the Garchs, and the core. Nobody controls the integration. This is not a lament. It is the foundational fact of galactic politics for the last 100 years. The system arrived without permission, from an origin no one can reach, running processes no one fully understands, answering to no government or institution or collective agreement that has ever been attempted. The architects are gone. The system runs anyway. What the three dominant institutions compete for is not control of the system. It's control of the conditions around it. The gap between those two things is where most of the violence in this world happens. The military's claim to authority in the integration era is the simplest and most legitimate of the three. They have the most rigorous relationship with the system, because in their context the cost of ignoring it is obvious. People die. Military integration culture is meritocratic in the system's terms. You advance by doing the work your designation requires. The system confirms capability regardless of rank, regardless of name, regardless of how much your family paid for your early rift access. The officer whose commission reflects politics and whose designation reflects something the system observed before the politics took over, that gap is visible to anyone who knows how to read an overlay. The military is full of people who know how to read an overlay. What the military controls is legitimacy. When the system confirms someone's designation, the military's recognition of that designation is what makes it operationally real. The system measures. The institution deploys. Every mission assignment, every clearance category, every allocation of system resources to a fire team. That structure is military infrastructure. And it is the closest thing to governance the integration has in known space. What the military needs is everything it can't generate itself. Skill markets are predominantly civilian and corporate. High-quality rift environments are increasingly privately managed. Equipment manufacture runs through corporate supply chains. The military's resource dependence on the core is structural and growing. This is the military's specific vulnerability, and the core have been exploiting it methodically for decades. The Garchs, the oligarchic dynastic families, the Garchs, were powerful before the integration arrived and have spent a century refusing to reorganize around it. They do not define themselves by the system's terms. They measure power the way they always have, through political relationships, dynastic continuity, economic reach, and the loyalty of competent people. Most Garch household members are integrated. The culture is pre-integration in structure. Advancement within the house follows dynastic logic, not designation rank. The integration can tell you someone's authority score. It cannot tell you whose cousin they are and what that cousin is owed. This is not naivete. The Garchs understand, precisely, that the integration's framework is not their framework. They use the system as a verification tool and a hiring filter. They don't allow it to define them. Their household guards are integrated. Their sensitive work goes to operatives they hire precisely because the system has confirmed a level of capability their internal staff can't match. What the Garchs have that neither the military nor the core can purchase is dynastic continuity. Pre-integration trust networks. Diplomatic conventions that operate through channels the overlay doesn't track. The social infrastructure of centuries of political relationship, mutual obligation structures, long memory agreements, the specific weight of a family name in a room, existing in the spaces between what the system measures. The specific Garch vulnerability is architectural. They understand political threat intuitively and system-level threat poorly. Their threat models were built around competitors who use the same tools they do. When an attack arrives through integration infrastructure, zone manipulation, system behavior modification, overlay interference designed to create uncertainty at the precise moment a decision needs to be made, the Garch political networks have no frame for what's happening. They hired an operative to run a security audit. He checked the locks. The attack came through the walls. The core had an insight the other two institutions were slower to absorb. The system's conditions are worth more than the system's outputs. Stats are impressive. The ability to shape the environment where stats are developed, applied, or degraded is more impressive. Core buy what the prime cost curve makes scarce. Information about how to advance designation rank in ways the system never communicates directly, optimal rift environments contracted for private use, recovery infrastructure that accelerates physical attribute development, skill market access for constructs that most operators will never see organically. They produce high integration level operators efficiently. More importantly, they invest in understanding how the integration works at an architectural level, not the outputs, but the infrastructure underneath. How system behavior is generated, where it can be influenced, what happens to overlay function when the right variables are modified. A corp operative who can seed a transit zone with integration interference, making overlay function unreliable in specific targeted ways at a specific time, is not using a skill or a stat. She is using knowledge of how the house was built, applied to removing a load-bearing wall at a moment of her choosing. The core need the military's legitimacy and protection. They can produce high-level operators, but not institutional standing. The salary differential between military assignment and corporate security is real and growing. Retention of the military's most capable operators is a permanent tension, and the core are winning it incrementally. The core's relationship to the Garchs is competition with a longer time horizon. The Garchs have dynastic legitimacy and pre-integration political networks. The core have capital and system architecture. The contest is for the same political territory, using tools so different that the combatants often don't recognize what's being attacked until the damage is done. The board. The three institutions are not balanced. They pretend to be, because the pretense serves all three. The military needs the core to not perceive the relationship as leverage. The core needs the military to not perceive the relationship as servitude, and both need the Garchs to keep funding the apparatus. The balancing act is maintained through a shared interest in not naming who has the advantage. Here is what the board actually looks like. The military's legitimacy is real and increasingly insufficient. Legitimacy doesn't manufacture rift environments. Legitimacy doesn't design system architecture interference. Legitimacy doesn't retain a Tier 3 operative when a corp can offer him twice the salary, and a mission structure that doesn't require him to justify why he's still alive when the rest of his team isn't. The Garch wealth is real and increasingly permeable. Dynastic continuity doesn't protect against an attack that arrives through overlay infrastructure. Political relationships don't counter system-level coercion. The Garch family that built its position across 3 centuries of human expansion is navigating a threat environment its 3 centuries didn't prepare it for. The core are advancing, not through domination, through the quiet accumulation of the thing that neither the military nor the Garchs have prioritized until recently, a genuine understanding of what the integration actually is, and therefore what can be done with it. The board isn't balanced, it's shifting. Most people who live in the integration era are not inside any of these institutions. They are in the space those institutions compete over, the frontier settlements where corp rift contracts shape who can develop and who can't, the military installations where designation advancement tracks the institution's need for specific capabilities, the Garch networks where the system's measurements are acknowledged and then set aside for the conversation that actually matters. The stories that unfold in this world happen in the gap between what the 3 powers want and what the people caught between them are willing to give. Follow the posts to stay current. Subscribe to read the stories where the gap becomes personal. The Integration Era is a science fiction series about a world remade by an alien system nobody asked for. You've been listening to The Integration Era, stories by Charlie Foret. All content is copyright 2026 by Charlie Foret, all rights reserved. Voices produced by Speechify. New stories, world-building deep dives, character dossiers, and more are available now at integrationera.com. Subscribe to get notified when the next story drops. The system is watching. You might as well keep up